Awesome. We're on. Cool. Hey, everyone, it's been a while. Thanks for joining to this monthly meetup. We didn't had a meetup in March. There was a lot of things going on, and we just decided, we'll give all the PMs a bit of a break with all of that. Usually, the months of February, March, and April are the months that are kind of the month before event season. As some of you may know, we had the MVP summit last week, which was very successful. And if we have MVPs on the call, thank you so much for coming to Redmond or joining online. But like I mentioned, this is the time of the year that we're starting to plan for all the events. We have Build next month, then we have another digital event, and obviously Ignite, which is kind of the pinnacle of the year when it comes to all the announcements and everything that's been happening. But nevertheless, obviously there's a lot of engineering efforts going on. So as always, this call will be recorded with all the updates and everything that you need. Cool. With that, just the usual housekeeping, be respectful, mute your mic. We're going to have some time for questions in the end. And also feel free to raise your hand. I'll try to monitor the chat as much as possible. And obviously we have all the PMs and everyone here to help moderate the call. As always, this will be recorded and everything will be uploaded into the YouTube channel and the GitHub repository. We encourage you, obviously, if you're in this call, you're familiar with this repository, but share with your colleagues, And with that note, by the way, we just wanted to celebrate, more than 800 members in this community. We started this, with Chris Sanders. If, for those of you who've been here for a while, we started this with probably 200, 3 years ago. And fast forwarding, we're more than 800 at this point, and a lot of new people have joined in the past 12 to 14 months. So thank you everyone for the support. We appreciate it. And we have a lot of fun doing and preparing for this. So again, thank you so much. Cool. Today is going to be relatively, I want to say relatively short, probably around the 25 to 30 minutes call. We have few updates coming from multiple teams and obviously, a lot of opportunities to contribute and ask questions. So with that, we'll just kind of get going with this. All right, I'll kick us off with some Jumpstart updates. Like I mentioned, I want to give some context to things that are happening. I mentioned that the month of February, March, and April are usually those months that we are hectically working on some of the big releases, right? Usually those releases are the ones that we are looking at in the context of the, what we call the tier one events, which is, Build. We also have Inspire for partners and obviously Ignite. So usually those releases that we have, and again, just speaking on behalf of Jumpstart for a second, usually those releases that we have in that time frame are more on the, I want to say, maintenance, but also relatively low in terms of new things, because we are just compounding things together towards the big events, making sure that we have everything going on and everything is okay. So with that, first of all, just want to acknowledge a new member for the core maintainers team, Jan, joining us from Norway. So he's a new core maintainer on the team, and as you can see, we have all the emails from the team on the right side. Okay. 3 new scenarios in the past, I want to say 45 days. All of these scenarios are around Auto-Manage and Azure Arc-enabled servers. I know that Arnav is going to talk about this, in more detail when it comes to Arc-enabled servers and Auto-Manage later on. But another updated scenario around Auto-Manage. These are the 4 scenarios that we touched on in the past 45 days, besides all the work that we've been doing on RBox and HCI box. Generally speaking, you're going to see a lot more emphasis coming from us when it comes to Auto-Manage, machine config, and just kind of, again, compounding a lot of these scenarios together into, future releases of ArcBox and whatnot. So these are just kind of the updates that are coming from us. And obviously, when it comes to RBox, the regular release cadence around updating all the versions that RBox, and specifically with the Kubernetes stack that we have in RBox, is using. So you can just see all the versions. All the release notes in details obviously are in our AKMS Jumpstart release. And there's also a new video that we released in the YouTube channel around Arc-enabled servers and at-scale onboarding with group policy. Again, Arnav is going to touch on Arc-enabled servers later on. Again, I don't have a lot more to share besides that. But you can definitely expect a lot of things coming in May and in June as we are releasing the new big things that we are coming up with. And obviously, we'll share more in the community call next month, and also we have built. So with that, that's all the updates that I have. Please feel free to ask questions if you have any, or reach out. And with that, I'm just going to advance the slide and hand it over to Dhananjay. Dhananjay, take us away.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lior. And for those of you who are new and have not met me, I'm DJ Data or Dhananjay. And today I'm here to talk to you about Azure Arc-enabled SQL Server, Azure Arc-enabled Post SQL Managed Instance, and Postgres, the three offerings we have through the data channel. And as you probably know, February was a major release. March was also completing some of the major release. This is a particularly smaller release, but we have some really good improvements. And we have been focusing a lot on taking existing SQL servers that your customers have and you have in deployment, connecting them to Azure, whether it's SQL Server 2022 or even prior versions of SQL all the way back to SQL Server 2012. And we are improving the capabilities to manage through that single control plane. So as part of that, we have started using building the building blocks for backups and restore. Key capability many of our customers have wanted. Now what you can do is enable automated backups for all your databases. So as soon as you connect a database to Azure and through Arc, through the Arc bridge, you can take backups. Now by default, we have disabled these backups because we don't want to break those of our customers who have scripts who are automatically doing backups today. So those will continue to run. And so the default is 0. But if you want to enable backups, we will currently do weekly backups, daily differential backups, and transaction logs every 5 minutes. And the only parameter that can be configured in this release is retention days. If you set that value to 0, which is the default, which means no backups will be taken, but it can be set up to 35 days. So do use the backup functionality, and you can copy these files off if you want beyond 35 days to your own folder structure, or create a script to back up if you have long-term retention, and some of those capabilities will also get improved in the coming months. And then the other thing which is very popular with our customers is best practices assessment. This helps you analyze your SQL servers and give you some recommendations. And we heard loud and clear from customers that we want to do this at scale to all the SQL servers that are deployed in their data center. So we have enabled through Azure policy to create these best practices assessment deployments. Going to the next one. Now let's talk about Azure Arc enabled SQL MI. With Azure Arc enabled SQL MI, we've added failover group support. And what is that support? In the past, you had to use Kubernetes commands in the indirect mode to create failover groups for Arc enabled SQL managed instance. And all of you may know Arc enabled SQL managed instance is our offering of SQL Server running on Kubernetes. So you could use Kubernetes commands. Well, with the latest release now, direct mode support has been added. So you can use AZCLI. And with this release, you can create failover groups in direct mode using AZCLI. When you deploy Arc SQL Managed Instance, the other challenge that we heard from customers is they want highly available orchestrator replicas that can be placed on different nodes. We are working with a few customers who are deploying this in production, and if the data controller goes down, that's a problem. In the default configuration, the single HA orchestrator pod was getting scheduled on the node hosting the primary replica. This became an issue because if the node hosting the primary pod goes down, the entire orchestrator pod also goes down. So now what we have done, even though you had additional replicas available and fully synchronized, the applications could not connect since the orchestrator that is responsible for the redirection is down. With this release, we have updated the deployment routine to schedule the orchestrator pod on a secondary node. and this will greatly improve your availability. The other thing that we have done now, going to Arc-enabled Postgres, which has been in preview mode, we really have now given the finishing touches to the features set of Postgres, Arc-enabled Postgres, and now Arc-enabled Postgres is feature complete. We want you to use it, and in the last update that we are doing until a long time, is to ensure that extensions can be done, Postgres extensions, that is what I mean, to a per database and a per role. And metrics and logs can now be uploaded to Azure, so you can view it in Azure. And in all essence, our Arc-enabled Postgres capabilities feature complete. We want you to test, deploy it, give us feedback so we can announce the GA. And one final thing is use use the all-in-one create experience. What we had was, for the data controller, we now have a newer experience, which is create the extension, custom location, and data controller all in one. And it also sets the right parameters, and we have deprecated that individual create experience, which was causing a lot of problems to some of our customers if the wrong parameters were set. So we have made that experience a lot robust. With that said, a whole bunch of small but important updates in this release. So please go deploy it, test it out. Here you have the contacts of myself and the entire team. Please reach out to us with any feedback, and help us, improve the product further. So with that, let me hand that back to Lior. Thanks a lot, Lior.
Thanks, DJ. You also have a question in the chat from John,
Oh,
so just take it offline.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take it offline. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, DJ, for the update. Arnav, take it away.
Sounds great. Thanks, Lior. All right, let's get into the Arc-enabled servers neck of the woods. So as you might be aware, we now have made generally available our integration with Azure Auto-Manage machine best practices with Arc-enabled servers. So this means that at the time of onboarding, you'll be able to attach your Arc-enabled servers to a configuration profile, dev test, or production. And with this, you'll be able to onboard your Arc-enabled servers to Azure services directly with their deployment. So you can benefit from, VM Insights, being connected to a log analytics workspace, Azure Automation account from basically day zero. And so that's really hearing kind of the feedback we've gotten from a lot of folks around reducing that friction for getting that service attached. That's really motivating a lot of the Arc server interest and adoption. So wanted to share that, that is generally available in Azure portal and not just through CLI with our connected machine agent. In terms of agent updates, we have quite a few agent updates. We're now on 1.29. We had a 2.8 release in March as well. There are quite a few fixes, improved reliability for delete requests for extensions, more frequent reporting of the VMUID, reliability for agent config writing, as well as some changes to the Linux install script, now including the GNUPG package if it's missing on Debian, for example, and removal of some of the weekly restarts for extension and guest config that were creating some problems. We did notice that there were some specific bugs as it related to high CPU consumption with the GC service in particular, which has been resolved, as well as some gaps with HIMDS, with a number of servers going offline because of HIMDS intermittent issues. So both of those have actually been fixed. In terms of additional enhancements, you'll find that the agent actually now compares the time on the local system and the Azure service when checking for network connectivity and creating the resource in Azure. And so if the clocks are offset by more than 2 minutes, basically non-blocking errors is created, and you might have those sort of TLS connection errors if the time on the computer doesn't match to the time in Azure. And this is addressing sort of feedback that we've gotten runtime mismatch errors. The other piece here is sort of this is nice to have around the AZCM agent show, where we have an OS flag if you want additional OS information printouts. So a lot of enhancements and fixes to the connected machine agent, as well as this GA for the Azure Auto-Manage machine best practices integration. Other things we wanted to share is, we were able to connect with quite a few folks from the MVP Summit, so it's great to have that over the last week. We wanted to share this more broadly as well, but we do have some private previews and pilots coming up, and we'd love to get customer feedback from folks that are interested. One part of that is we will be doing a private preview for run command. We've gotten feedback around custom script extension and, with run command capabilities that are really popular with our Azure VMs, being able to run those scripts for general management, app management kind of purposes. We are going to bring that to Arc-enabled servers. It's been a core investment, and we'd love to get customers that are interested in testing it out from private preview. So feel free to sign up. Another piece is we actually are doing a pilot program for ESUs on Windows Server 2012. End of support is coming in September, October, and we know ESUs are top of mind for a lot of folks coming in from Windows Server 2012 R2 land. And so we are going to have a specialized SKU for Azure Arc that you can acquire through VLSC. And we're going to do a specialized deployment method as well, where you can use machine configuration through policy or directly through Azure portal to activate that key that you acquire from VLSC, and then you can patch using Update Management Center, right? So you have a sort of end-to-end with the Arc ESU experience. And so we're really excited about that. And if you're interested in signing up and want to jump the gun on ESUs, we will have a pilot program for evaluating the Arc ESU SKU over June of this year. So please feel free to sign up there. The final thing to note is we'll be doing a backup study. So if you have any feature requests around bringing Azure backup capabilities to Arc-enabled servers, please reach out to me. My contact's here at rnfc@microsoft.com. But those are the main kind of highlights of what's new with the connected machine agent and sort of what's on the roadmap and how to get involved as we kind of get that feedback with our exciting new set of features. So with that, we can go to the next slide. And just to give a little teaser of what that Arc-enabled server auto-manage integration looks like, I have the Arc onboard kind of link there too. But if you guys test it, you'll see in the single server onboarding, you can literally enable auto-manage at the time of onboarding your Arc-enabled server, and that'll deploy to VM Insights, Log Analytics Workspace, Update Management, Azure Automation, your selection of a subset of Azure services. So it really does eliminate a lot of the need to discover there and configure each of these services. So it'll really help hone in on extending Azure services through Arc Server. So looking forward to seeing folks adopt and any feedback you guys have for this. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Arnav. Definitely a lot of updates, and we're also excited about starting to roll out the auto-manage integration. That's definitely something that's been on our radar for a while. Thanks, Arnav, for all the updates. And I will hand it over to Abhilasha. Abhilasha, take us away.
Thank you, Lior. Hey everyone, I'm Abhilasha, and I'm today talking about just the monthly updates for Arc Provision AKS clusters, which is currently in public preview. If you're not familiar with Arc Provision AKS clusters, it's basically how you can create AKS HCI and AKS Windows Server clusters using Azure CLI, Azure Portal, and ARM templates. So it's something that our customers have been asking for. How do I use Arc and to manage my AKS clusters at scale, whether that's making sure that different locations have the same AKS clusters all deployed from the control plane, from the Azure control plane, whether you're upgrading your AKS clusters using the Azure control plane very consistently with how you've been doing it for Kubernetes and Azure. And so we launched this preview last year, and we're having monthly updates to this preview as we march towards GA. So for this month's monthly update, we have two new functionalities, both from the Arc Provision AKS, both from Azure Portal. So the first one is that now from Azure Portal, you can create and delete node pools. So once you've created your cluster, you want to size it up, you can add more node pools, both Linux as well as Windows, to your AKS HCI cluster. The second one is something that we've noticed a lot of users use in AKS Azure, which is the day zero Azure Monitor integration. So now when you go through the portal flow for creating an AKS clusters, you can give a log analytics workspace, and we do all the magic backend to make sure that your AKS cluster is integrated with Azure Monitor. We're going to slowly add more services to this experience. Please let me know any service you'd like us to prioritize, which you see in Arc-enabled Kubernetes. We can definitely prioritize that service and add it both for the day zero as well as day two integration. And day two integration is what it means if you, for some reason, on day two decide to add Azure Monitor support, you can do so after you've created a cluster. I had a question.
Yeah, I see Cam's hand. Cam, you
Yep.
have a question?
Yeah, I have a question, yes. So this is Arc Provision AKS clusters. So what I have been dealing with is that it is running on Azure Stack ACI now. What I'm planning to handle in this way, running on Azure Stack ACI on premises, connected to Azure, as you already know about this one. And I'm trying to find out the connectivity with DevOps, if it is possible, because the app should be running and the database and other kind of stuff should be on premises for different countries according to their own GDPR content. So will it be possible to set up the code to keep it on Azure DevOps area? Apologies. And when you do commit and configure and modify, etc., whatever, afterwards, will it be possible to deploy this to a private repository? And because the private repository is updated, Azure Stack ACI hosted AKS will be able to download and publish directly in this manner. So will it be working in this way or not?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for the question. So right now for CI/CD and DevOps, we have we support GitOps.
Oh, good afternoon.
Flux
Yeah, I've been sent an email
extension.
from Hannah saying that I've got an appointment that needs to be rearranged.
Sorry about that. Let me
due
mute
to
whoever
long-term
it is.
sickness.
So just repeating a bit. So right now we support the GitOps Flux v2 extension. That's something that we've validated and we support it. So you can use GitOps Flux v2 extension on Arc to
not
set
GitHub.
up.
I'm especially asking for Azure DevOps, not GitHub.
Azure DevOps, right? Yeah. So Azure DevOps is supported on Arc-enabled Kubernetes using a generic Kubernetes plugin. We have not validated that for Arc Provision AKS clusters, but I think you should be able to use it. Let me just quickly pull up the documentation for that and give it to you.
That would be fantastic, because that's what I'm looking for to find out, because that will be the future, I can tell, isn't it?
Just to confirm, the question is whether Azure DevOps can be used as a source for hybrid clusters?
In some cases, yes, you can think of that way, but not that simple, to be exact. Because I mean, think about the idea that you just set up a stateless app to be run on these containerized applications, but at the end, companies, according to their rules that they have to obey, or depending on their GDPR stuff, that the database and other kind of stuff, etc., should be running still on premises, so that AKS cluster will be on premises by the Azure Stack ACI. That's what I'm telling about.
So here's what I'm suggesting. Mayuri, Abhilasha, Cam, is it okay for you guys to connect offline and dive deeper into this and see what is the use case?
I'll be honored. That's why I was a little bit worried about if I should ask this one or not, but I'll be honored.
No wrong questions. All good.
Okay then. So
just want to be respectful to others' time. That's all. So
definitely, yes, you're right. Yeah. Definitely, yes. So who liked? I'm going to be grateful to that person. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Kim.
Okay.
We'll
Abhilasha,
rearrange
do you
it.
want to continue and
Yes,
Yeah.
please. All right.
Right.
Okay. So, improved Arc Resource Projects install experience. One of the prerequisites for being able to create AKS clusters on HCI or Windows Server, for that matter, is that you set up the Arc Resource Bridge and you create a custom location. Now, when we first went to preview, we had a pretty complicated experience. You first had to install AKS HCI or the management cluster or the AKS host, and then you had to do a bunch of stuff before you could install Resource Bridge and set up a custom location. We've greatly simplified that experience for those who have tried the preview. For those who have not, I promise you things are simpler now. It's much easier to set it up, and it's only going to get easier. This is a non-NDA call, so I won't go into specifics, but please do tune in to next month's community meetup to learn about how much simpler we've made the prerequisites. But for this month, we've removed the requirement to run install AKS HCI in order to set up our resource bridge and therefore to use provision clusters. We have also improved the install uh, we've also experienced experience when you have Arc Resource Bridge as well as AKS HCI management cluster. If you go to documentation today, you'll see that you have to uninstall Arc Resource Bridge in order to run install AKS HCI. So that experience is now better. You do not have to uninstall Arc Resource Bridge. You can simply go through your AKS HCI experience and it just detects that some of the components are present and it just sort of skips it over. So you don't have to uninstall Arc Resource Bridge, remove your provisioned AKS clusters or VMs to run install AKS HCI. And the third one is we've been hearing a lot of feedback from our customers about documentation for using one custom location for both Arc VMs and Arc provision clusters. This is so that you can use that one custom location on Azure Portal or CLI to create both VMs and Kubernetes clusters. And this is something that is in the final stages of being released. And if anyone is interested in sort of trying it out in a preview capacity, please reach out to me. I can pass those scripts to you. So yeah, so that's everything. I did have a demo planned, but my cluster is down. My HCI cluster is down. So apologies for that. I will do a demo next meetup.
Thanks, Abhilasha. All right, Mayuri, take us.
Great. Thanks, Lior. Hey, everyone. I'm Mayuri, part of the GitOps team here. I have a few updates to share based on the last 2-3 months of the enhancements on our site. So all this while, in fact, in the last 3 months, I've had various customer interactions where customers who are trying to adopt GitOps with Flux at scale, and they're thinking about, let's say, a few hundreds of clusters. One of the main challenges that they're talking about is how to roll out the application across that estate progressively. The set of clusters are always, let's say, split across different environments. Some would be part of the dev testing, some would be part of QA or staging, and then you'll have a few clusters, most of the clusters in production. The question that I've heard mostly is that how do you roll out first in one environment, measure the success in that environment, and then move on to the next environment, and then finally roll everything out in production. It's been a challenge, to address it at first, but and all this, the customers, for all of this, customers wanted to have, the source control still, in, let's say, a Git repository or in an Azure blob account. And so what we basically done is we've come up with a guidance for the customers on how they can set up their Git repository with a set of GitHub actions and have a set of scheduling flows and promotion flows to move the rollout across all these stages, from dev to testing to staging to production. I'll talk about that a bit more when I go to the next slide. But this is just to highlight, this is an example scenario and not a Microsoft recommended approach, because there are so many approaches that one can go ahead and that will work specifically for an environment. It's just an example scenario that we have realized that should work for 80% of our customers when you adopt GitOps at scale. So that's that. So that's one update. The second update is that we've released support for ARM64 based clusters. So if you have clusters that are using ARM64 based architecture, GitOps now supports that. Third update is that we've had Azure Blob Storage as well as one of the source options, but it was only through CLI that you could onboard the account Blob Storage as a source. But now we have also enabled this experience on Azure Portal. So you have three options. When you go to a portal, you'll be able to see three options there. One, attach any Git repo. Second, you can use any bucket source as well. And third would be Azure Blob Storage account. You can use any of these three as a source control for GitOps. Next, outside of this, we are also working aggressively on improving our monitoring story for GitOps. Currently, the way you access GitOps is within the context of a cluster. You access either the Arc-enabled cluster or you access the AKS cluster, and you then within the context of that cluster only, you can see, okay, what the configurations are, where those configurations are in as compared to the desired state in Git, and that's that. But when customers adopt GitOps at scale, one of the challenging things that we've heard is that I have, let's say, 100 or 120, let's say, clusters. How do I check the compliance or the rollout of one single application across all of those clusters? How can I visualize, okay, what's going wrong? What if there are common errors across all of these clusters? How can I figure those out? So for all of these problems, we are exploring Grafana as one of the options to have that multi-cluster view for GitOps. Why we chose Grafana? It's based off multiple customer interactions, because we've learned that Grafana is one of the most basic things typically customers always have in their environment for at least their infrastructure monitoring. So we are trying to extend Grafana to also do their app update monitoring. So that will be one of the many options, but we are looking at not just Grafana, but at least 2 options to do the monitoring for GitOps at scale. The other thing which is upcoming is a research study on GitOps. So we are looking for to solve for GitOps to solve the GitOps story for Edge. These are customers in the retail, in the manufacturing, and even the healthcare industry. We're going to do deep research with these customers to uncover some of the use cases that we've been hearing from customers over different meetups and calls. So we are going to do a little bit deeper study here to understand exactly what the edge use cases for GitOps may be. So one of the cases to highlight is that at times, I mean, although the way Flux works today is that you have a constant 10-minute or a 15-minute sync, and whatever updates you see in Git, you directly pull them. But one of the things that retail customers or manufacturing customers would need is explicit approval, at the end of the line before the updates are applied, or maintenance window. So those are the features we'll be working towards in the next few months. Lior, could you move to the next slide? Right. So this is what I was talking about when I was mentioning the progressive rollout. I'll quickly take you through exactly what the guidance is. Again, just to highlight, this is an example scenario. So what we have, the way we have provided the structure for platform teams and the application teams is that there is a control plane. There is a control plane repo, which is owned by. So, okay, taking a step back. So there are in an organization, there is typically separation between platform team and application teams. The platform teams are the ones who are owners of, who are the ones that maintain the infrastructure, the target clusters where the applications are supposed to be deployed. And so they are the ones who own the configurations or are aware of the configurations that need to go in each environment. So they host this control plane repo that has all of the main code base for all of the infrastructure and is aware. And within this repo, you also host the configurations for each specific environment within a particular folder structure. Now, because the configurations would differ by environments, so the recommendation is that, or the guidance is that, you split this repo into different branches, and each branch should host the configurations for each specific environment. So that's why on the top you can see dev branch, QA branch, and prod branch as 3 separate branches. And these are the branches that host environment-specific configurations, and main branch, which you see on the left side, is what hosts the main code base. Down at the bottom, you would see the GitOps repo, which is what the platform team, which is what the platform team maintains to host the final application manifest that eventually get deployed on the clusters. So the way it will work is that the changes that the platform team would make would only go into the control plane repo, and through the promotion flows and through the scheduling flows, the final manifest would be created for each of those specific environments step by step, and would be hosted in platform GitOps repo, so that Flux can reconcile from that GitOps repo. So starting from the left, a commit to the main branch would basically trigger a promotion flow and a scheduling flow, which will basically pull in the configurations from dev branch, apply those configurations to the main code base, and create the final application manifest and store those in the dev branch of platform GitOps repo. One would through the automated GitHub actions, the tutorial, or I would say the guidance, is designed in such a way that it automatically tracks if the application is deployed successfully to all the target clusters. If it is, then it automatically triggers the promotion flow for the next QA branch, and so on. So I would encourage you to check this out. I mean, I've just given a very high level overview of what that flow can look like. But this can work for most of the customers. Let me know what you think. The link to this guidance is provided in the previous slide. If you have any feedback, if you have any specific architecture to share, would love to check that out. But definitely encourage you to see this if this is something that you've been trying to do. That's all I had from my side, Leo.
Thank you so much, Maria. A lot of things are happening in this space for sure, and you and I are obviously talking a lot about this a lot. All right, cool. Thank you so much, Maria, for the update. And with that, Gail, take us home.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gail. I'm a user researcher working closely with Leo and also the broader art team. And next slide, please. So as you might see, we actually have lots of research going on. For this particular call, we actually want to share this feedback opportunity that we would like to learn more about. If you are running Kubernetes anywhere, including like different on-prem, hybrid, or multi-cloud environment, we would love to hear about your experience. So in this particular survey, we will ask you just general your experience using Kubernetes. We will also ask you about your experience using I-enable Kubernetes, no matter you have used it or not. So yeah, so we're really excited about this opportunity to hear more about how you use Kubernetes. So you can take this survey at the URL or the QR code over there. And the other exciting part about this survey is we actually also running a campaign. So for external customer taking this survey by May 10th, you will have a chance to win a USD $300 worth of virtual gift card. So really look forward to hear more about your feedback about the Kubernetes experience. Thank you. I will also drop the message in the chat so that it might be easier. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Gail. $300 is like what? 10 Windows licenses? That's nice. All right, cool. Thanks everyone for joining. I'm gonna leave it on for some Q&A. If anyone has any question, please feel free to raise your hand. If not, we'll give people some time back. As I mentioned, today is relatively short, 40 minutes. But But yeah, a lot of updates, as you can see, or relatively a lot of updates. So feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions. If not, I'll count us and we'll drop. All right, I don't see any ends. So with that, I'm going to give people some time back. Thank you everyone for joining as always, and we're going to see you next time. Bye everyone.
Yep. Have a good day all.